What's the best spark plug wire for your LS swap? Is there really one spark plug wire that fits every header and every application? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's time for another LS swap tech tip and trick video. Honestly, I probably should have made this one years ago, but I figured, hey, if enough of you guys watch my videos, you would notice one thing that's been consistent with all the vehicles that we've done swaps on this channel, and that is that we always use the same spark plug, or at least the same brand and design of spark plug wire on those swaps. It doesn't matter if we're doing a turbo application with turbo headers, log manifolds, or just really tight fitting NA headers, or even stock manifolds. We always use the same wire. So there seems to be a lot of confusion from people on the internet, especially on Facebook. People are always asking, you know, what spark plug wires do I use? I tried these, I tried those, it's burning, burning my wires. Do I need to get boots? Blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to try to answer that as quickly and thoroughly as possible without wasting a bunch of your time. So here is your factory style wire. Now, I say style because this is not a factory wire. Obviously, it doesn't have the metal heat shield on it. But the inherent problem with the stock wire is it's a straight boot. So if you've got a really tight fitting header that curves around, a lot of the times a straight boot, it's just not going to work. It's going to smash up against the header. It's going to burn through. It's no good, guys. So what do I recommend? Guys, every swap you have seen us do on the channel, we have used this same wire. This is a Taylor Pro Race wire. They make these in these thick 10 millimeter like this, but they also make them in an 8 millimeter wire like we used on the DR Nova. They make them in multiple colors, and no, I am not sponsored by Taylor. I have been using Taylor wires exclusively for probably going on 25 years now, even before I started doing LS swaps. So what makes this wire so unique is the 135 degree short boot design. All right. Now, usually when I tell people to use a 135 degree Taylor boot, they'll go on Amazon or eBay and they'll grab a set of these. Okay. These are your standard 135 degree boot. And by degree, I'm referring to the angle of the boot, not the temperature that the boot can withstand. Let's just make that clear. I know it should be obvious, but some people just don't get that. So we're going to throw that out there. 135 degree does not mean it's going to melt at 135 degrees. It means that this boot angle is 135 degrees. Now, the problem with this style of boot, and this is actually a Taylor wire too. It's one of their Street Thunder wires. But most of the cheaper wires that you find on eBay and Amazon, they're going to have a boot like this if you get a 135 degree boot. The problem is this boot's too long, guys. It's still going to cause the spark plug, like you compare that to the straight boot, you're really not saving a whole lot of space. Now, these will clear a lot of headers. But if you have a really tight fitting header or turbo manifold, these may not clear it. They may still touch. They may still melt, burn holes. You know, then you start getting misfires. That's where this beauty comes in. These Pro boots. If you compare the Pro boot, and we'll try to get it right on the angle there. If you compare the Pro boot to a standard 135 degree boot, you can see there is a lot sticking out there. So what this does is this allows this wire to sit almost directly against the surface of the head once you get this plugged into the spark plug, and just gives you a tremendous amount of clearance. Even if you've got a header that comes really close, this is going to clear it. Guys, you've seen me use this. I've proved this time and time again. You've seen me use this on pretty much every kind of header we've swapped with, every turbo manifold, even on stock manifolds I use these. It's a great wire, guys. They're durable. They last a really long time. I mean, they're on every car I own except for the Avalanche. And I know the ones have been on the DR Nova for, what, 4 years now? and still going strong. It's just a good design. So there are some other wires that people generally recommend. I'm going to tell you why I don't recommend those. The MSD wires. That's the big one everybody recommends, and it's because they're flexible. You know, you can adjust the angle, but the problem with those is it's still a really, really long boot. So if you've got a really tight fitting header, a good example would be the generic eBay shorty headers that everybody buys. They say they're for S10 swaps. Those headers come really, really close to the boot. The MSD wires, I know for a fact, I've tried to use them with those headers, and they hit the header every time in 2 different spots. So these guys, they'll clear those headers. As a matter of fact, that's probably one of the tightest fitting header that I know for a fact this clears. You would think other manufacturers could do it, unless Taylor's got some kind of, you know, some kind of patent or something like that on this design. I don't know why other wire manufacturers don't make a short boot wire like this, but they just don't, guys. So that's the wire I recommend. And again, you guys have seen me use these on multiple swaps with all kinds of different headers, exhaust manifolds, turbo manifolds. They always work. As you can see, I keep these things on me here. That's all I use, guys. And they are available in all different colors. I can only think of one situation where these didn't work and it had nothing to do with the boot. It was because we had the header on the DR Nova, the driver's side header, the number, I think it's the number 3 primary tube. It comes up and over. And we still ended up using these wires, but what we had to do was zip tie the last 2 wires together to pull slack out of them so they wouldn't touch the header. Now, when it comes to buying these, there is a reason I'm not giving you a part number, and that is because these wires are available in several different lengths, several different thicknesses, several different colors. Guys, you really just need to go to Taylor's website, find what you need for your application. They have wire measurements or application specific wires, like for LS1 or for the truck style coils, because they are mounted differently and there are different length wires depending on what coils you're using and what coil brackets you're using. So go to Taylor's website, find the color you want, find the length you want, and find the thickness that you want. Get that part number, and I just usually go to eBay. I'll type that part number in, and then you can find the cheapest seller. And it's usually either Summit Racing or Speedway. Usually ends up being the cheapest, but they've all got, you know, all the sellers, the big sellers have eBay stores. So I find it's easier to do it that way. And that's the way I always do it, guys. Taylor website, find the part number for the specific one I want, type it into eBay. That way I can compare prices and get the best deal. Now that I've told you about, you know, pretty much the perfect wire for every LS swap, I do want to say this. These are not super expensive wires, guys. If you get the thinner 8mm that still has the Pro Boot, I think they're about $60 for a set. If you get these thicker 10mm wires, I believe they're about $80 a set now. They used to be about $65, but as we all know, it's 2022. Prices have went up on everything. The important thing is, if you're needing that extra clearance for your headers, do not order the Taylor Street Thunder wire, because you're going to get this style of boot. You need one of the Pro Series boots. So just make sure you're getting the Pro Series, not the Street Thunder series, if you're needing that extra little bit. One last thing I want to cover, since we're on the subject of spark plug wires, the heat boots. This is a point of contention for me. It aggravates the snot out of me every time somebody recommends them. Guys, I don't have one to show you, and the reason I don't have a heat sleeve or a heat boot to show you is because never, ever, ever have I had the need for them. If you get spark plug wires that fit correctly, you're not going to need those heat sleeves. You're not going to need ceramic boots. You just need to get spark plug wires that don't touch the header, and hopefully isn't in very close proximity to the header, which is what those heat sleeves are for. So here's my big thing with the heat sleeves, guys. Heat sleeves are not meant for direct contact. Heat sleeves are meant when you've got your boot and it's really, really close to the header. maybe it's almost touching it, or maybe it's even just barely touching it. Okay, that's what those heat sleeves are for. If you've got a spark plug wire that is just smashed up, like there's a lot of tension, like it's smashed up against the header like that, or one of these straight ones, you know, it comes out and the header passes through here and it's really smashed up against it, those heat sleeves are not going to save you. Okay, because what's going to happen is that header, because of the amount of pressure on that sleeve, it's going to pass that heat through that sleeve, and eventually it's going to melt this boot and you're going to get a misfire. It might save you for, you know, 1,000 miles. It might save you for 10 miles, but eventually it's going to burn through both the sleeve and the boot. So, you know, stop recommending people get heat sleeves when it's obvious their wires are just crushed up against the header, guys. That's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to get, you know, a wire that's actually going to fit. So one last thing, I know a lot of guys are going to say, why don't you just use a 90-degree boot? That way, you know, it's going to fit even tighter up against the head than this 135-degree boot. Here's the story with that, guys. I've tried it in most applications. If you try to use a 90-degree boot, well, at least if you try to use a short 90-degree boot like this, it's going to smash up against the exhaust manifold flange so hard that you're not going to be able to keep it clipped on the spark plug. It's constantly going to be popping off. Now, you might be able to do a long 90-degree boot like this and get away with that, but again, guys, here's my recommendation. Taylor Pro wires, they have fit everything on this channel that you've seen us swap. So go get you some. If you're wanting to know what wires to get for your LS swap, probably, you know, 98% of the time, this is your answer right here. Unless it's a bone stock swap, you're using stock manifolds, all that jazz, then just, you know, if you want to, stick with the stock wires. There's nothing wrong with them. The stock wires have actually been tested and have less resistance than most of your aftermarket wires, except for Taylor. Taylor actually has less resistance than a standard wire, but that doesn't really matter until you start making just obscene amounts of power anyway. So there's my opinion, guys. Hopefully this video helps some people out. If you want to check out more videos in the LS Swap Tips and Tricks playlist, by all means, check that out. I cover a lot of, you know, just LS Swap basics in that playlist. So until next time, get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.